He's in
St. Thomas, right?
private school, yeah.
I'm not a lifer here.
Right.
I
You
vote
going?
here, so.
Won't put him in
This is
public
all
school.
in
I
there.
was doing great until
Yeah,
I
but the thing is, it's not like
ran over one of my
you still
brilliant
lay teachers that
fence
have
post
opinions.
spikes.
Yeah.
And I don't know
Loaded
how the public school controls it, but everybody's got an agenda. Everybody's got an opinion.
The heavy
We're not
kind.
teaching anything.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's filled.
Well, I think that's not quite true.
I don't know if you're
I
familiar with
hope so.
tractor tires.
Oh, yes, I am.
Fill them with
From what I
Calcium,
can see,
yep.
calcium or
Yep.
whatever. Mine,
Oh,
There shouldn't be in any school.
Not
It should just
filled with
be-
gas.
the only smart thing I did was I jacked up the ass end of the tractor, so some of the stuff might not ooze out before I get it to Central tomorrow morning. So that's what I'm doing at 7:30 tomorrow morning.
ugh. Okay, so he can,
12
Dave is
12
there,
names.
Yes, I'm here.
and you can't see though?
I cannot see.
Okay.
Dave, are you
Why
in
would you
Florida?
not be able to see us?
So
Evidently, he's not answering that
Uh,
question.
I stopped the video because he's only looking at me. That's
Oh.
okay. That's a beautiful thing. I don't know how to change it to a different camera. Or
Dave, are you still down south? Hello?
Oh, that's why, Matt. That one right there.
What?
Almost had it.
Why is he not answering my question? Can you not hear us?
Yeah, I don't think he can hear you.
We might have lost him. The blue is, there it is. Dave, can you hear us? There you are.
Okay. Where are you now physically? Are you still down south, Dave?
No, I'm in New Hampshire.
Uh,
How are y'all gonna be some?
You'll be here for candidates night?
Hey, there you go. Yeah, I'll be here.
Saturday night?
Are you a candidate, George?
Oh, is that the candidates?
Are you a candidate for something?
Okay.
No.
How about Buzzy, Matt? Is he on?
He is on.
Okay. There you are, Buzz. Okay, hi, everybody. It is 6:35, and I'm going to call the April 18th, 2024 Ordinance Review Committee meeting to order. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thanks, everyone. Okay, so
Clapping a long time. I don't know.
we're gonna start by reviewing the minutes. I did send them out at the last, right after Dave sent them to me. I sent them out via email. I don't know if you all have had a chance to look them over, but I'll give you a few minutes
I
to do
sent
so
the
now.
reply, but
Yes, I got that
Oh, did you?
reply.
I wasn't sure if I sent it to
I
everyone
did,
or not.
and
It
that
was
was,
just a simple typo.
yes, in number 2, Dave, of the minutes, the letter T is missing after the word prior.
Right, oh, two, yeah.
And then the only change that I had was that I noticed in number 5, that you had all of those miscellaneous ordinances that we discussed, but you had not put in there that the street address ordinance
Oh,
was
it gonna be-
discussed
Yeah,
and tabled.
yeah. We did that, didn't we do that the meeting before?
Well, we had discussed it at the last meeting, but at the last meeting, we had said that Matt was gonna take some time to reach out to one of his people.
That
and
was the
so on and
meeting
so-
before that.
And
But
at the
then we
last
asked them
meeting.
again how it was working at this meeting, but.
At the last meeting, yes. I just want it
I can put
noted
it
in
in
there
there if
that
you'd like.
street address
Yeah.
was discussed as well. Because the last minutes say that it was tabled, so we'll put it
And so we didn't untable it yet.
correct, but we discussed it at the last meeting. So anybody else have anything they want to go over on that?
I make a motion to accept the minutes with the changes.
Eric?
Second.
Yep, seconded by George. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's move on to petitions. I think we haven't got a lot tonight, but we'll start with petitions. It might be a short meeting, yay. But we'll start with petitions and see where everybody is at. I'm gonna get my handy dandy phone calculator out and just see how many.
Highly reliable.
6 it is. Okay, so we'll start with Eric.
6.
Eric is at 6. How about you, George?
Dozen,
12.
twice as many.
I have 26. How about you?
20.
20.
More than double.
And Dave,
0.
you got no signatures?
No.
Okay, so
Peggy, how many you had?
5. Is that, you didn't get signatures for what reason?
I voted against 2 of the items, and I would not be a good person to be asking people to sign it when I wouldn't sign it myself.
You wouldn't let
So
the town
is
vote
it-
on it?
Is it?
Yeah, I would let the town vote on it, but.
Wait a minute, I just want to ask though, is it not our job as a committee to be a united front?
No, it's our job in the committee to do what we think we should do, which is right.
And our job as an advisory committee is to put it in front of the voters, correct?
Correct, and I agree with putting it in front of the voters.
So
But
why
I'm
not
not a
get
good one to
signatures?
ask somebody to sign it, because I would recommend they don't sign it.
But why
I
would-
won't sign it.
I understand, but the question is, why would you not ask people to put it on the ballot?
Because I wouldn't sign it.
You wouldn't vote for it either,
I wouldn't vote for it either, correct?
Well, that's. the
but you
point.
wouldn't vote against it either.
I would vote against it, correct?
So why don't you want it to go to the ballot?
I didn't say I didn't want it to go to the ballot. I said I wasn't gonna
Just not gonna
collect
go.
petitions. That's the end of that story.
It can be your end of the story, but we are a committee trying to get something to our constituents. So anyway, Dawn, how many do you have?
23 so far.
23.
Michelle, did you sign it?
I have not. Would you like 24?
Well, no, I think there's a customer there that can explain it.
Guess what? We're at 92, so it doesn't matter.
Peggy, I
Yes.
put in 10.
You put in 10. Okay, so we're actually at
Is that
100.
Buzzy?
Yeah. Yeah.
How many has he got? 10?
He has 10.
Well, how many did you get there?
I got 26.
We
Matt,
haven't heard
what
from
was
David.
Matt's count?
10.
You're the winner.
So we're at 102. Matt was at 5. And Don was at 23 and Buzzy's at 10. So we are at 102 signatures.
Dave Alves.
Dave Alves did not get any.
Oh.
He is
Oh,
in
so he's
Florida.
not
He
voting.
has not been back from Florida since we've had these petitions. So, but that doesn't matter because we're at 102 and that is plenty to pass in.
So can we submit these?
So yes, and
I think you gotta take them to the.
well, that was just what's brought up. So I didn't realize that. I was thinking that I could take these, but we cannot. We have to bring them because we have to sign the back when we bring it back to the clerk.
We personally have to deliver these to the town.
Yeah. We do.
So we can go tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Just give them to
Absolutely.
Susan?
Absolutely.
To,
Town clerk.
Yep. And then they'll go through and verify the signatures.
We're gonna sign it
Um,
otherwise.
Yeah, on the back. So that's great. And what will happen now, I'll kind of get ahead of myself a little bit here. We were going to review the timeline for new business, but actually I'll just say that what will happen is after the signatures are verified, they will go to Lindsay. Lindsay will put it in front of the select board. And I don't see any reason why the select board wouldn't say, yeah, go ahead. And then we will schedule our public hearing. I just don't want to schedule our public hearings until that has happened, until it gets beyond the select board. So our next meeting, we'll talk about that.
John's got a question.
John, go ahead.
I just want to point out that I hope this doesn't happen, but, you know, it depends how you read the charter, in my opinion. Select board could modify
Right.
the wording, even though this has been reviewed by the lawyer.
Correct.
Let's hope they don't, because I don't know what happens. I don't know what happens if you turn in 75 signatures of wording like this, and then the select board changes the wording. If that's still valid or not, so I mean, that might
Yeah.
be, if you talk to Lindsay, it might be a question to ask.
Sure.
The charter, I mean, you can look at the charter a couple different ways, but,
Yeah.
not that I'm a pessimist, but past
Yep.
experience with select board has not been favorable in getting stuff on ballot.
Yes, and actually that was the reason that was suggested, to not schedule your public hearings until it's gone through the select board.
Yeah,
Is because in the past, apparently that has happened.
Yeah, and my only point would be, if you're going to ask her, is, you know, if they change the wording in any way, does that invalidate these 100 signatures?
Yes.
I would think so.
I would
mean,
think
then
so
we're gonna
too.
have a pickle, because we have to go back again, and that motivation will be less.
Right.
somewhat
That's
to
true.
get signatures.
Yeah. Yep.
So I hope it doesn't happen, but, you know, it shouldn't, because it's a cooperative venture.
Right. I believe that. I believe that it would.
But I also just say getting, and I gotta say that, some people who might be listening, I was not exactly in favor of the 75 signature requirement. You remember that from the charter.
You're right, it should have been 150.
No, but I gotta say that it was going to my neighbors primarily and trying explaining what was on the ballot, what was going to go on the ballot. They were individual articles, and there was some wording in there like owner occupied is being removed for ADUs that I might not necessarily agree with, but I say this is a controversial thing. It was voted, it was discussed at the length, it was voted, this is the way the wording is. And I said, you know, if you don't like one of these, well, then don't vote for it. But this, all this allows it to get on the ballot.
Right.
And then people have to make up their own mind.
Right.
Right, which I think was definitely my point in our last conversation, was that this really isn't you're voting for it or against it. You're voting to put it on the ballot in front of all of our residents and allowing them to vote yes or no for it.
And I think getting more signatures in that sense, even though I hope some people aren't listening too hard on this, is not a bad idea, because it gets more people involved.
Exactly.
Now, whether we see this a result
Exactly.
in the election where people actually vote, you know, a larger number vote, I hope we get a larger number voting, but I don't know, that's up to people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Don, I have a really big smile on my face.
Yeah, well, I get some words, but we're on, whenever we're on, I can't say what I'm thinking, but anyway. I got to admit, there's some problems, there's some problems.
And just so you know, I did secure 12 signatures,
Oh,
but I didn't have the avenue to, you know, be in front of them. So I didn't think
Oh,
it was
right.
appropriate for me to
sure,
ask them to sign it, you know, without me in front of them.
sure. I appreciate that.
Anyway.
Okay, onward and upward. Everybody gets their petitions. We're moving on. So now we're going to go back and revisit some of the employee suggestions for ordinances. We had touched lightly at the end of our last meeting on escrow. Jeanette, our treasurer, had suggested that we put something in that says that the gravel pit escrows can go into an interest-bearing account. And if you can all go to page 65 in the zoning ordinance. We are looking at number 4 here. And I'm going to read it out loud for those on here. We're on page 65 in the regular zoning ordinance.
Town alignment zoning ordinance.
Yes.
Number 4.
Yep, number 4, and I'm going to read it out loud just for everybody. The owner operator, this is for gravel pits, by the way. The owner operator must submit to the town of Lyman either a check payable to the town or a performance bond naming the town as beneficiary in the amount to be set by the select board based upon the amount of open pit area. If payment is made by check, the funds are to be placed in an escrow account in the name of the town for reclamation in the event of the owner operator's default. So it is saying that it goes into an escrow. What we feel the problem is that it just needs to be beefed up, or Jeanette feels that it should be beefed up a little bit. And basically just say that it goes into an interest-bearing escrow account and that that interest will go to the property owner. Just adding that language would be beneficial, she feels. I think that we all are pretty familiar with the escrow accounts, and that is the standard. If you escrow money and it gains interest, it usually goes to the property owner. But
I guess my question would be, is there any such thing as a non-interest bearing escrow account?
let's ask our banker friend.
Yes,
There is such thing as a non-interest bearing?
yes.
So,
Banks will happily not pay you any interest.
Usually attorneys have escrow accounts and things like
They're
that.
not, non-interest bearing?
They're usually not interest bearing.
so I think that we should consider putting something in there. Perhaps we can all look at that. If we're all in agreement that that needs to be put in there. Yeah, can you hit that first row, Joe, please?
Is
There
there
you go.
any negative thought to that by anybody? Like, see why we shouldn't?
I don't know why we're not doing it now. I mean, matter of fact, I would be shocked if we're not doing it now.
So I
Go ahead, Joe.
We have precedent for it. The performance guarantee for subdivisions requires a check to be placed in an interest-bearing escrow account, specifies it there. So it would be consistent.
Yeah,
with what
it should
we
be,
have in other
for
regulations.
sure.
Does the person get that interest?
Yeah.
Okay, just so we stay consistent that way also.
Did the treasurer put forth the amount of money currently in escrow?
Did she tell me how much is
Right. How
in
much money are
escrow?
we talking?
I think that, yeah, she did kind of throw a number out there. I think it was something like $60,000 or something like that, that she said,
It's around $5,000, I think, for each one.
5%.
Yep.
5%.
and had said that, you know, one of them or two of them had not been gaining interest. So I don't know why they wouldn't be, but again, maybe that's why she brought this forward to us.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Don.
Where'd that $5,000 come from? That seems awful low.
Yeah, we talked about that before. We said it's way too low, but we never changed it.
But where is, does it, I don't know, I can look in here, does it say?
It's
here
set by the
somewhere?
select board,
The
correct?
Select board sets the amount.
Right,
on the
right.
arrow, but that was going.
But that'd be their decision if they wanted to raise it.
I don't know what it is now, but when I was on the board, it was like $1,000 an acre or something.
Yeah.
For every
Right, no,
acre
that's not
open.
enough, I don't think. Not for-
This is to pay for reclamation if they
Correct.
default?
Correct,
Correct. Which,
Geez, I would,
and
not
$1,000 an acre is like,
gonna get much for
Not gonna get
$1,000 an acre.
right.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Does he fill the gas tank?
Peggy?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, a number of years ago, there was a couple of pit owners that came and had from 5 acres, they asked to have 10 or 12 acres open. I don't know if they ever put in more money into those accounts. So we may be looking at enough money to do 5 acres, but they're allowed to have 10 or 20 acres open.
I don't think you can have that much open.
No, I think you're only allowed 5 open.
I think, Dave, that the planning board permitted it at the time.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, but either way, that's,
That's a state thing.
there
Yeah.
are things that have more than 5, but they have to go to the state. I think once you get to 10, you got to go to the state.
Yeah.
And most of ours are all set up for 5 because nobody wants to deal with the state. Now, Dayton, his pit has got Boku open, but that's a whole different ballgame, and I'm sure he has enough money in there to cover it, but I don't think there's a pit in town that's got more than 5 open. Because when you, as you want to open more, you just reclaim part. So you might reclaim 3 and then open 3 more.
So yeah, kind of getting back to it a little bit as far as the escrow, that number 4 on page 65 there, perhaps we could, just simply state, looking at this, hold on, town performance bond, town is beneficiary in the amount.
What did Joe say the other ordinance states?
Placed in an, if we just add the word
Interest-bearing escrow account.
interest-bearing escrow account.
That brings us in line with the other.
Subdivision,
Okay.
performance guarantee.
Yep.
That makes sense.
And interest-bearing.
Oh, there it is.
Escrow account in the name of the town for reclamation in the event of the owner operator's default. Do you actually go back and say, make sure that it says that the interest goes to the property owner?
No, it's not supposed to be.
I think it's kind of a given. If it's in an escrow, it's a given that it goes to. So as long as it says, same thing in real estate, yes, if it's in an interest bearing account, it goes to the owner. And obviously if they default, then it goes to the town. It's okay, all right. So we'll just add that interest bearing in there and I think we'll be good. Does everybody agree with that? Sound good, okay. 11.
I do have a question about it being set by the Board of Selectmen, though, without an overview of at least a civil contractor.
Say that again, Dave.
I heard what Dave said, we grabbed $1,000 an acre, I get it. But, in today's market, are you really gonna be able to do that work with slopes and loam and, you're really gonna be able to do that for 1,000 an acre?
Yeah, we know you can't, Dave.
Yeah, no.
But the reason it says the select board sets them is because they set all of the fees.
I agree that they should approve it. I just don't really agree they should set it. That's just my 2 cents.
So you think that,
Well, who do you think should set it, David?
I think I think even if, in the application of the pit, they have a formal quote from a civil contractor that's licensed, insured, or rather just insured, has been in business, and, that's the number that they're gonna adhere to. Now it's up to the select board to say if that's enough or not. But at least it's backed up by something other than, so much per acre, which it's really hard to figure it that way.
any other thoughts on that?
Maybe the town should have a civil contractor.
Well,
Look at-
that was going to be my question. Do we know
Look
that
at-
the select board does not do that?
I don't know, but each one has got to be different. Topography is different and maybe that's what they need to do. But since we don't know what they do.
That's right, Steve, exactly right. But I'm not saying that they have to accept it, but there should be something at the base of the number.
Right.
There should be a reason why we're going with X.
Does it have to be a set number, or can it be a sliding scale depending on market value that's evaluated like every 3 to 5 years?
Well, if the board of selectmen said it, then
Well, if they approve it, I'm going down the spot, I'm just wondering, does it have to be, do they have to say it's 3,000 or 5,000, or can they say it's fair market value evaluated every X number of years, even every year?
It's hard to put an amount like that in an escrow account.
Or at the time of the sale, whatever the fair market value is. If you were to just come here and buy 5 acres of land, what would it cost you?
Well, that'll
We're talking about
change,
gravel
though.
pits here,
yeah, the gravel pits. That'll,
Oh, I know, but I'm saying, like, I'm trying to evaluate what's the cost of the land and what would it take to reclaim it. Each road is different.
yeah, it'll be different every time, but I mean, I'm not sure. Dave Alves, do you know that the board does not reach out for professional advice and or guidance on that?
Not in my 3-year experience. I mean, Dave just mentioned that they put $1,000 per acre. It didn't sound like that was backed up.
And that's from like 25 years ago and hasn't been changed.
Yeah, so I would say
Because
no.
what land was worth an acre
So-
25 years ago.
What is the, what do you think we should have as an alternative, Dave?
My thought is in the application of a pit should be a qualified quote from a qualified contractor that goes along with their application
Mhm.
To be approved by the select board. I mean, they may look at it, you know, if they're playing games, they may say, oh, yeah, $500, you know, obviously, that's not gonna work.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, at the same time, they're gonna be held to doing this.
Mm. Okay.
Can I just
Yeah.
ask?
Go
a
ahead,
question?
Matt.
Are we suggesting to change our zoning ordinance to reflect what we're talking about?
You'd have to do
Yes.
that if you did what he wants.
Yes. Yes.
You'd have to write a whole
He's saying
section in
in-
there about how to come up with that number.
Right.
Maybe we should look and see how some other towns.
They all
Yeah.
have numbers.
I mean, they all have numbers.
Yeah.
So
But they have
why don't
more
we say
reasonable
that?
numbers.
It just feels to me like because there's no specific wording on where the $1,000 came from currently in our ordinance,
Right.
there's a policy or procedure someplace else that lays that out.
I would think that, or that they would reach out for guidance and or professional advice on that. But I mean, we can definitely research other towns and see what they have as a suggestion. And we can just table this specific one, this specific issue for another meeting.
Well, are we considering proposing a recommendation for a different fee structure?
Yes, he is saying
As
that
part of
they
the
should,
Ordinance?
yeah, that it should be part of their application and when they're applying, and that the board should be able to yes or no that, instead of the board setting that fee structure.
Because there are other, you know, questions that the board might have,
Right,
you know, during this application process.
right. Joe,
Dave, I've got a question for you. When you say,
can you
civil-
hear Joe, Dave?
Bailey, go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
Joe.
Dave, when you say civil contractor, are you referring to a civil engineer?
No, but it could be.
Okay. Well, just suggest,
You know, so somebody basically who deals with dirt.
so
And
maybe,
if it's a pit, they certainly are not gonna have a problem finding something.
okay. Just, you know, for down the road purposes, maybe revise the language so it would read, be set by the Board of Selectmen in consultation with a qualified civil contractor.
Oh, that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yep.
That would be a good idea, actually. Set by the Board of Selectmen
In consultation.
in consultation
with a qualified.
with a qualified
civil contractor.
civil contractor. How does that sound to everybody?
Maybe licensed instead of qualified.
I think either is,
I was trying to set a professional certification rather than, they've been doing this for a long time.
I don't know if we really need to tell the select board how to set fees, I mean, in this ordinance. I mean, we could recommend that they do that, and if I was the select board, I'd say, okay, give me some options, because we don't have any engineers on the select board.
right, but
That's why the
That's why he
ordinance will guide
says
them
in-
with that.
right.
Getting
And
an engineer.
does everybody know what reclamation of a pit means?
yes, I
What does
do.
it mean?
It means that they have to replant the trees, they have.
No, it does not mean that. It means when they get done, it's pretty much a level playing field. They have to go in and put 2 inches of loom on it and seed it. That's reclamation.
Okay.
It's pretty easy to estimate what it costs because now you already have a flat place
Mhm.
and you're gonna put 2 inches of loom on it and you're gonna seed it.
Who makes it a flat place?
The pit, when they get done, have you ever been in a pit?
Yes, but
Go out and look, they're flat.
but if they don't do that, isn't
Not
it,
all flat.
aren't they forfeiting their
Yeah.
escrow to do that? If they just simply walk away and
They
it's an
can't walk
open
away.
pit.
They can't walk away because that's what the escrow is for.
How do you set the escrow?
But if the escrow's
I just said,
$1,000 and
we
they,
need to set the escrow, but right now, the escrow was set 25 years ago or 30 years ago at $1,000 an acre.
all I'm
When
saying,
we looked at this a while ago, we said, that's not enough. We
Right.
said it needs to go up, but it never did.
but that's why I'm saying, if they look at the cost and they're saying, well, we only have $4,000 in escrow, it's gonna take us 40, let's just walk, and they walk away. So if they don't reclaim it the way they should.
Correct, that's the point.
So
That's what
which-
the escrow is for.
So what's wrong with adding this to the ordinance, saying that they should consult with a professional?
Okay, but you're gonna have to write that down and make sure you do it correctly. So you're gonna have to have a whole other section of the ordinance
That's what we're.
that says how to set the fee.
And if you go up one notch,
Mm-hmm.
there's reclamation, I think it does specify some more specifics. Vegetative cover.
Yep. Cover is
Planting of
acceptable if
trees and
within 1 year of
shrubs.
seeding,
Yeah,
the planting of trees and
I
shrubs,
think it is.
I've never
Um,
seen any trees and shrubs.
as
planted in
I
a pit.
had just said.
That's the-
Establishing a vegetative cover by seeding within 1 year of the completion of excavation. So, yeah,
And they have to do this, it's not like they wait until the end, Steve, because they have a permit for 5 acres, okay? Now, most pits out there are 40 acres, 50 acres, 60 acres. They do 5 acres, they can't open up the next one until this is reclaimed. So they reclaim the 5, or they'll reclaim like 3 or 4, and then they'll open up 3 or 4. So it's not like they're gonna wait until 60 acres are open and then walk.
Now, is there someone?
Hold
that
on one sec,
inspects
Dave
the
Alves.
The
reclamation?
CEO,
The code enforcement goes
Correct.
in and approves the reclamation.
yes.
Dave Alves, go ahead.
In the ordinance, it states that the depth of not less than 4 inches.
Okay, well, 4, I said 2, I was wrong.
Okay, so, go ahead, George.
I just have to share, New Dam Road, y'all drive up New Dam to 4 from Old North Berwick.
Yep.
Which is with Mills Road. Over on the left is a big pond of water. That was an excavation pit in the town of Sanford. Somebody went in and paid thousands and thousands of dollars to plant trees there. And the whole thing filled up with water because they'd excavated below the natural water level.
Water table, yeah.
I don't think, if you're talking about 4 inches alone, you think that's gonna cover a reclamation. To me, I think every one of these pits is gonna, look at Levine's over there in Sanford.
Mhm.
He's got the biggest, he's building a lake because he's extracted so much sand.
Now, you gotta remember now, when permit is issued, if they wanna go below the water line, if they have to stay 3 feet above the water table. If they wanna go below that, they have to get a state permit. But the permits that we give out here at Lyman, I'm not aware of anybody that's been given a permit to go below the water level. I know Dayton has, but he got that from Dayton. So we don't allow it. Now,
Okay.
that doesn't mean people don't do it, but that's up to the CEO to make sure they don't do, that's enforcement. We have an enforcement problem in Lyman in some areas, and maybe there too, but I don't know how you regulate enforcement.
Okay, yeah, Buzzy, go ahead.
Yeah, West Layton has a permit to go below water.
I'm not
Okay,
aware of that, are you? Les Layton? I sat on,
I'll guarantee you he does.
well, I sat on the permit when he got his permit. I don't remember any going below water table for Les Layton's pit. You're talking about the J&L pit?
He got that permit before I ever became a selectman, because we questioned about it. It was shortly after the pit went in there next to Dennis Moore's house.
All right, so I'm gonna bring us back to the number 4 here. The question in front of us really right now is whether we should add the wording in this number 4 of the Board of Selectmen, the amount to be set by the Board of Selectmen in consultation with a licensed or professional civil. I don't know if it's a civil engineer. Is it a civil engineer?
I don't want to spend their money. Yeah, I mean, I don't see why it can't be a contractor myself, but I guess it has to be a qualified person,
A qualified civil,
qualified professional.
a qualified professional. So that's how it would read.
So we're also gonna be asking somebody to estimate the cost of reclaiming something that hasn't been dug yet.
Yep. John, go ahead.
Can I just make a point that, maybe my memory isn't as good as a lot of people, but I remember in the past, we had to review these pits every couple of years. Remember that, Dave?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
Well,
CEO has to go out and
Well, no,
review
not so
it.
fast, but I remember one time I thought the planning board was involved in that review, but the ordinance.
That was before we changed
Right, so we
the
have
ordinance.
changed now, so it's all on the CEO.
Correct.
But I would just point out that a lot of these pits are open now. And so, and I know when Brenda was here, she made a
Right.
spreadsheet of all the open pits.
Mhm.
But we really hadn't, the onus was on the
She's just
operator to come and get the review, and a lot of them, some of them, I should say, weren't doing that. So anyway, the ordinance now says, on page 64 at the bottom, about open acreage, it says each year within 1 month of the anniversary date of the site plan review approval, the owner operator must send the CEO a letter from a licensed surveyor certifying the amount of open acreage is in compliance with conditions, blah, blah, blah. So, but there is really no, point I'm getting towards is there's no mechanism for inflation of the cost of reclamation. So let's say somebody has X number of acres open, and they send a letter, and they've been open for 10 years, and you set a fee at the beginning.
of $1,000,
Yeah.
We
right?
set the fee 30 years ago and it's still the same.
Yeah, so I'm saying there's nothing wrong with the wording that you're putting in here, but that would only apply, wouldn't that only apply?
To future. You're not,
Oh, yeah,
it's
you
not
can't
gonna
go back.
change the
Yeah, you
escrows
can't go
of the
back.
current.
Sure you can.
Yeah, it's pretty much grandfather.
Well, it depends how the thing
I
reads.
don't agree with the grandfather thing. If you send in an application to open up 2 more acres, even when you're replicating 2 acres, that next
No, no,
2 acres. should
That's
be
not how it works,
subject
Dave.
To a new fee.
That's not how it works, Dave.
Go ahead, John.
I didn't want to raise an issue that I don't know that it has to be resolved right this second, but I'm just saying that there ought to be built in here some way of, let's say, a routine review of the open pits and versus what they have in escrow to see whether a way to require additional funds to be provided. I mean, it would require a change to the ordinance, and maybe there'd be an issue with grandfathering, I don't know, or can't say that anymore.
Steve, go
Prior
ahead.
existing.
Oh,
Can I
sorry.
make a
So-
suggestion?
Sure.
Until we have further information, because I'll tell you honestly, if I was a certified site contractor or earthworks guy, and the town asked me to look at this 5 acres and say, how much will you charge to reclaim this? You have no idea the depth that they're gonna go in their excavation or anything else. And
But
I
you
wouldn't
do, it's
even
on the
venture-
plan. They have to provide us a plan that says how deep they're gonna go, where
Okay.
they're gonna go.
And then there's gotta be, as Dawn is saying, that there has to be some sort of follow-up on a yearly basis on 2 years and make sure they're adhering to that. So instead of, we've been on this for so long, maybe we need to bring someone else in, talk to someone else.
Well,
instead of
I
doing
was
this for the
gonna,
whole meeting.
after your suggestion, I actually think that we should table this for at least until the next meeting. We can bring it back up and we can look at how other towns handle gravel pits and or reclamation. There's no blame or shame in us plagiarizing something from another town. George, go ahead.
Don, you said there was a review by the planning board?
Yeah, a site plan review. every year.
Every year?
No, we don't, once the, I'm just saying, and David, I think David remembers this too. In the past, there was a requirement for every so many years for the planning board
Right.
to go back and look at these.
They had to
maps.
reapply every 5 years.
That got tabled back to the CEO?
I'm sorry?
That got placed back into the CEO's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Responsibility?
Reworded.
Yes.
Make it a responsibility of, this is with the CEO at the time's approval, wasn't the planning board didn't jam it down the throat or anything, but, to eliminate that requirement because administratively it wasn't working very well. So
When's the last time the planning board looked at the pits?
we looked at, when was that one?
This song?
This song, when they were expanding, it was an
Yeah,
expansion.
if they want to expand, they have to reapply.
Yeah, so we went and did a sidewalk and the whole thing, and they explained exactly what they were gonna do, provided plans, and da-da-da-da-da.
But other than that, no one goes to make sure they're adhering to the plan.
Well, that's not true. The state inspects them like, I think, once a year, or they used to at least once a year. They may not do it every year now, but they used to do it like once a year. And then the CEO gets this certified letter from a surveyor certifying that they haven't opened up more than they're allowed to.
No, I'm saying, what you say, when they open a certain area, it's all specified, the depth that they can go and everything
Yes.
else. Who assures that they're not exceeding those limits in what they're permitted for? Is it looked at on a yearly basis, every couple of years?
Every year there's a letter written by a surveyor that goes in there and surveys and says you haven't done more than
By
what
the
you say you were
CEO,
gonna
and
do.
it's sent to the CEO,
Yeah, it goes to the CEO,
Who hires the surveyor?
the landowner.
contractor.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
CEO, the surveyor has to stamp the drawing. I don't know of a surveyor that's gonna lie when he's stamping the drawing.
George?
So where I'm going with this, Don, is the possibility of a review every 3 years by the planning board where you are confronting and seeing the actual excavation pit with an eye towards possible adjustment of the escrow funds.
I think you have to go back and, I don't have the information, but I think you have to go back and look. It may have been that way in the prior ordinance, before this was revised. I know there was a requirement for the planning board to go and look periodically, but it didn't happen, frankly.
This whole mineral extraction section was put in so that the responsibility would go to the code enforcement officer. We wouldn't have to do the annual inspections anymore. It was for.
And how's that working for you?
And also less of an expense on the pit owners as well.
Yeah, and it's putting more responsibility on the pit owner, because now he has to get a surveyor to certify.
Eric,
Whereas in the past
hold on
it
one
was-
second. Eric, you
I
had-
just was gonna make a suggestion, if we're gonna change that, then maybe we send it ahead of time to the select board to let them know. that
ask
this
their
is-
advice.
Well, this is something that impacts you as a board.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'd
Yeah.
like your feedback on this.
Sure.
change.
Absolutely,
To me, that
absolutely.
would make sense instead of doing it and then having them saying, no, that we're not. gonna-"
Sure, absolutely. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Michelle?
Just Googling a little, some of the town spring, I think it was, if it's new pit, every year they have to be reviewed by the CEO.
Like ours.
And then after that 5-year point, you get a 5-year, and every 5 years they have to review it. So that's something to present to the board as well.
Yes.
So
Every
that
5 years they
you
have to.
could have
review.
every 5
They
years.
have to have a review by the CEO again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of the pit.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the state does, but that
Yeah.
would still is putting onus on the town to see what they're doing.
Does it mention any review of the escrow fees, that they should be adjusted?
I didn't get that far, I just
Okay.
saw that.
So this is what we're
I think
gonna
that's the
do.
Biggest concern is, do we
Yeah.
have enough money to do it
To do
ourselves
it if they walk
want
Which is
away.
why I'm-
Right, right.
Which is why I'm recommending a
Absolutely.
5-year review, 3-year, whatever
Absolutely.
time period.
So this is
Somebody
what we're gonna do. We're
other
gonna
than the
leave this
CEO
section
is looking
4
at this.
as just putting in that interest bearing into the interest bearing escrow account. We'll leave that for now. And then the issue as to fees, we'll table that. I'll do a little research. I will reach out to the select board at some point. I'll maybe even go to a meeting and ask them if they have a little feedback on that. and we'll revisit this section, number 4 here in this, I think it's 11, what section are we in? 11.2, I think it is. So that, we'll table that for now.
John has another.
Dawn has another
Quick
question.
comment. The only thing I would suggest is that to be a little cautious on what additional responsibilities are placed on the CEO, only because.
They're pretty
my
bogged
experience-
down.
Well, first of all, we don't have a CEO right now. We
Right.
have one CEO, and you have an assistant that does administrative work, yes.
Sure.
But that person, and all the CEOs I've seen pretty much have been pretty busy.
Mhm.
And you end up with there's all kinds of things going on, including
Mhm.
ongoing permits
Mhm.
and people coming in wanting to do things.
Yep.
You know what it is. You got one person doing all that stuff, so.
Right.
Yeah, you're gonna dump it on that person, and it probably isn't gonna get done.
Maybe
Right.
we need 2 CEOs.
Well,
A
that
whole-
actually, what's that, Dave?
If I may.
Go ahead.
In regards to Dawn's concern,
Mhm.
the onus is really on the pit owner. When it's time to re-up or open up or recertify, like Dave said, they need to get their own surveyor to submit a stamped elevation drawing
Yes.
of where they are, when they are, how they are.
Mhm.
So it's really no more responsibility on the CEO. It actually takes the responsibility off of the CEO and puts it on the surveyor of the pit.
Mm. Dawn, go ahead.
The other thing I would comment on that is that I think our previous CEO, Brenda, has took the initiative to make up a spreadsheet, and at least she provided that materials, I remember, to the planning board saying, here's where we are with pits. Because from a planning board perspective, we really weren't keeping up with pits at all.
Mm.
And so she got it a little more organized, but this is all again, and Dave makes a good point there, but it's all again on having a person who's well organized
Mm.
and has the data available. And I would also submit, if you go into the code office, we got plans and plans and plans.
Too many. Yeah.
There's
Mhm.
issues,
sure.
administrative issues, I
For
would
sure.
suggest, that could be solved, but.
All right.
Not a whole lot.
So yes, we are going to table that, but that is a great segue, Dawn, into our next one, our next employee suggestion. We're going to go to page 22 in the zoning ordinance, section 7.2.
So I don't have the same ordinance.
Oh, you want,
Yeah,
I think I have another
I
one.
got an old one. I think they gave me an old one.
I have another, but it might be,
I'll follow.
it might be doodled on.
Thank you.
Okay, so page 22, section 7.2, building permits. All right, here we are. It was suggested, here we go, building or use permits. As Dawn was saying, the CEO office is pretty bogged down. I feel not only are we absent one, but I think we could actually have 2 people in there and working pretty much steady all the time. But the suggestion was that perhaps there's a way to put something in this section that would allow for people to put something under, 100 square feet, 10 by 10 or something, like a chicken coop. Right now, if you want to put a chicken coop on your property, you have to come get a building permit. So it was suggested that perhaps there could be something. Sure. It was suggested that we could put something in that would say, we could, if you're under 100 square feet and you meet the setbacks, that you don't have to get a building permit. I had never heard of that, so I went and did a little research myself. And in your packets that I gave to you guys, I put in something in there. Yes, this was that section 12 of building permit stuff. that was just one of the other towns that I went and looked at and thought, okay, well, we'll look at this and see what they think of that. They basically outline what it is, the whole process to getting a building permit. I did not find anything that said, you know, you can put a chicken coop or under 10 by 10 or anything like that.
This is pretty standard, Peggy, that you're allowed to make ordinary repairs, things that don't have a structural element.
Right.
But it doesn't say anything about, you know, if you want a shed, you can just build it.
Right, exactly. And I think that it's a slippery slope, but I also think that any way we can help out our CEO office and get them less bogged down with building permits or, I mean, they're pretty much right now at a point where they can not even deal with walk-in issues.
Seems like the simplest thing would be to just list exceptions, like they did.
That's what I was thinking, yes.
It's
That's-
a little ridiculous to expect to get a permit for a chicken coop. Or the CEO to actually give it that, like.
I would agree with you, but
Or even
right
just
now,
like
that is how
a
it
shed to
is.
put your tools in.
So
But usually, in all fairness, they don't actually come out and look at the site and everything else because they're issuing a permit, you're paying your $40.
Mm.
I mean, I myself.
they're just assuming that
There's,
you're.
there's
meeting
many
setbacks,
things
right?
that I have built, I have the permits for everything,
Mhm.
but they don't come out and look at every little thing. They'll ask you, do you have the setbacks, do you know where you're putting it?
Mm-hmm.
Because you would submit a drawing.
Mhm.
But I don't think they come out and look at every chicken coop, every shed. I mean, I haven't had that.
No, they don't, but I think the issue was more about the application process, filling out an application and so
But
on
it's
and
the
so forth.
revenue you're losing to the town also.
That is
you gotta
true.
look at.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I
and
agree.
the main reason for permits for something like that is taxing. You
Taxing.
need to
yes.
know that
And
it's
I mean,
there.
you don't really, we probably don't tax chicken coops.
No, but you
I
tax
mean,
sheds.
Sheds, yes, you know, anything that's
I
why I
was
think the
barely
suggestion,
exempted.
that's how it came to me anyway, was that anything under, you know, maybe 10 by 10 or whatever. You had something, Matt, go
Yeah,
ahead.
Sounds like the
and I could look
legislative
it up, but, aren't we only allowed one accessory building on our property?
No, that's been changed.
That's been changed, man.
You're allowed as many as you want.
As long as you don't exceed certain coverage.
Yeah, as
Yes,
long as you don't exceed 20% of the
20%, right.
area.
Yep. So yeah, that was a suggestion. Again, I think if that we're going to put something like that, that this whole section should be rewritten. This 7.2.1. And it should look more perhaps like this suggestion that I have here. This was actually the town of Arundel. So we know this was done by a planner. Lee J's their planner. So it looked pretty good to me, but it would require us completely rewriting that section of our zoning ordinance. Any more? Go ahead, Dawn.
Was it, or is it still a thought to get help from Southern Maine Regional?
Southern Maine Planning and Development, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but
Wow.
yeah, well, they're going to do comp first.
Yeah, that's true.
They're going to do comp first. So again, anybody have any more they want to add about this or thoughts or ideas?
I have a question. If you look.
Go ahead, Dave.
If you're looking at Arundel, no earth material in excess of 10 cubic yards. People can't even grade their driveways for less than 10 cubic yards.
That's true. That's true. I actually think that says
Is
that.
Alphas, they're probably more
It just becomes an oversight burden.
Yeah, yeah. And that's actually bogging it down even more. It's having the reverse effect of what we're trying to do or
Right.
we want to do. So, and I am totally okay with this going to the wayside too, if we are feeling unfazed by this.
I'm just gonna what does Alfred do? And we can look at theirs, because they're pretty similar to us, and they're at least in our same district.
Alfred?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
feel like they'd be a better example for us to follow than Arundel, just from population.
Alfred's pretty, they're not as maybe progressive as Arundel.
But I feel like
Usually
the
when we
way
go-
Arundel's land is used.
When we go to plagiarize a document, usually we'll go to a town that's a little more, like I said, progressive, I guess, but, so yeah, George, did you have something?
Yeah, I've just been through a building process with the town of Lyman.
Yep.
And they have not signed a single phase of my building project.
Because of lack of help.
Yeah, there's no CEO.
I've been inspected 3 times, one by the electrical guy who's approved everything, hasn't
Mhm.
signed the building permit.
Mhm.
And now there's no code enforcement
never
officer.
signed.
So I have a document
I know.
with no signatures on it.
Signed.
Go ahead,
on my
Dave.
project.
George, you should go on the state, there's third-party inspectors that the state has a list of that you can
They're
call,
independent.
and you know, you have to pay them.
Mm-hmm.
But at least that'll
Yes.
keep you in compliance.
Yep.
But David, just the fact that they know why are you out of compliance, because I could bring in 20 or 30 permits that I have that have never been signed at all. They've been issued, and even if inspectors come out,
Well,
there's no signatures on any of
It's
them.
not that, it's not the card that is important, it's the file, or it's the
Oh,
permit in the file.
Okay, but I think George is talking about the card, right?
I'm talking about the card. So the card doesn't matter?
Well, if the card isn't signed, what makes you think that the file in the card in the file is signed?
I have no reason to think anything's been signed, except that I know that I had 3 inspections and I passed all of them. My question is, I don't feel I should have to pay additional funds to have somebody certify,
What inspections did you get, George?
electrical and insulation and framing.
So are you waiting for
Okay,
occupancy?
so who inspected the installation and framing?
Brenda.
Okay, so that should be.
Well, actually, I think I had to do photos with the insulation because Brenda left.
Then you should get a third party.
Okay, so we seem kind of unfazed by this. We're gonna move on. And we'll just wait for this. I'll write it in my margins.
You should have a
Um,
CEO. to-
When we
Give
have,
us
yeah,
some
if we had a CEO to have some input on that, it would be great, but we don't. So I'm not even gonna say that we're gonna table it. I'm just gonna write that it was brought up as a possibility by an employee. And when we come back and when we're starting to go through the whole ordinance, we will have that to consider at that time. So
Where I
let
was
me
going
put
with
in.
my observation, my personal, is there needs to be some balance in the process where there is progress or there's not progress with the building permit with the town.
Right, and that was one of the benefits of having something like this, because it tells you very, all the steps are very clear to everybody. And it's the same for every structure, every person, everything. I think that would be a benefit, but again, that would require us to redo the entire section. The whole Article 7 would have
But
to
you
be
gotta remember,
redone.
George, that we can write it as tight as you want here, but it's still gonna be based on the enforcement. It's like every other law. You make a law, and if it's not enforced, you can't force the enforcer to enforce
Which
just by writing a law.
is another great segue into the next employee suggestion.
No, I'm just saying, George. I mean,
Dave, you're not understanding where I'm coming from. I'm coming from where there needs to be checks and balances for the town's obligations, where the town fulfills their side of the bargain.
I understand, but what you're saying is somebody needs to enforce the enforcer, but I don't think that a zoning ordinance can enforce the enforcer. We can tell them what they're supposed to do, but we can't make them do it.
Okay, that one we are gonna move on from. And we are going to page 42.
Of the zoning?
Yes, of the zoning ordinance. This is the last one we're gonna do tonight. The last employee suggestion was about our noise ordinance, 10.11. Yep, I will. Where am I here? 42, 10.11. The suggestion has been made. Hold on, let me find this. 36
Page 42,
and 10.11. Here we are, 10.11.
noise or
Yep, the noise ordinance. Basically, the suggestion was made that we do away with it and do away with the noise ordinance. I actually searched this document. Noise is referenced, I believe it was 13 times in this ordinance. But this employee suggestion came as only this section, the 10.11, because noise comes from the gravel pits and it's in the gravel pit part and so on and so forth, several other sections. But as far as this 10.11, the problem is that in 10.11.5, let me bring that up for you. It says that basically this section is enforceable by a law enforcement. It's not. We don't have a law enforcement officer for our town.
It says or code enforcement officer.
Or code enforcement officer. And we all know that the code enforcement officer is not going to go out at 10 o'clock at night and measure noise.
Does the town even have a certified decibel meter?
not.
It does not. And I asked that question. We do not. And basically, again, it is completely unenforceable. Law enforcement officers, if somebody is too loud, your next door neighbor is being too loud and you call the cops, they are not obliged to follow our zoning ordinance. If we had our own officer, they would, but they don't. Code enforcement officer, we just discussed, is completely overwhelmed. And ain't nobody got time to be enforcing noise ordinance.
do they really get that many complaints where they?
Oh, you ought to be on
I hear
Facebook.
the tannerite get shut off.
Buzzy, go ahead.
Yeah, this ordinance is the same as our parking ordinance. If we don't have an ordinance, nobody can get it enforced. And even if the town don't enforce it, and a resident says, well, I'm gonna take them to court, they can use our ordinances to do so. But if they don't have an ordinance in town, they're not gonna have a leg to stand on.
Agreed.
We need to have our ordinance.
Okay.
I sure would hate to
Yeah,
have someone
yeah,
on the side of me.
Eric, go ahead.
Over me there, so.
I'm sorry, Roger.
Eric, go ahead. Hold on. Eric's got something. Go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, I wouldn't want someone on the side of my property working at 1 o'clock in the morning, cutting down timber
For
or
sure.
something and
Totally
running
agree.
heavy equipment, you know?
Mhm.
And-
Yep. It does. It just becomes onto the code enforcement officer, their responsibility, because literally the law enforcement is not, they're not going to do anything. I mean, you can call the code enforcement officer. Again, she's probably not going to come out at 10 o'clock at night. But I don't know, put a note in the file. I don't know what that even looks like in the code enforcement office. But if everybody feels strongly that it should stay there, I'm completely good with that too.
Can it not be changed?
I believe it should stay there because even if the town don't do anything, Peggy, if you want to, you need that ordinance to back you.
Okay.
Makes perfect sense. That does make
Yep.
sense.
And Peg, if I
Yes,
may,
Dave, go ahead.
As for enforcement.
Yep.
The onus would be on the person that's filing a complaint.
Yes,
So
you're right.
if they have this, whatever it be, film or decibel or whatever it may, and they submit it to the CEO,
Mm-hmm.
CEO can just simply put a letter, if they find that it's credible so-called evidence,
Yeah.
send them a fine, a $50
Right.
fine, a $10 fine,
Right.
doesn't really matter what it is.
Yep.
But you put the fine in their file.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that property or that person can't get a permit until that fine is paid.
Oh, I see. I
But
see.
Dave, who's gonna certify? I mean, someone complains, my neighbor
That's-
has
but
you know,
that's gotta
80
be up to the-
decibels at
civil
11
thing
o'clock at
anyway.
night. I mean, it's just unenforceable.
That's up to the complaint.
But Roger's point is good. If they want to go further, at least there's an ordinance for them to go.
Yeah, it's not unenforceable per se. I agree with Roger, because we had the same issue at the gun club. We had people complaining. Now, the gun club ended up having to spend the money to get the noise meters out there to prove that we weren't exceeding the ordinance. But here again, if there was no ordinance,
Yep. I accept that. Absolutely. Okay, that is the end of my employee suggestions thus far. I just wanted to, before I do anything else here, I just wanted to give you guys an update as to where we are in comprehensive plan. We have sent out our first survey. We intend to do another survey. Go ahead, Michelle.
For those watching, Dave, can you hear me?
Barely.
There were some issues with people upset there wasn't multiple choice. And there wasn't other things to be able to do with the survey. I'm investigating the next survey up that will have options for multiple choice. This was just a start survey. I've talked with the town manager. I'm gonna look at the pricing for a GD survey or something that will be more in-depth for the next survey that goes out like that.
Okay,
Just so.
perfect.
Because that's, I know
That was for the comprehensive plan. that
That's what
survey that was
comprehensive,
on.
yeah, yeah. And
And for the record, Michelle, I think that was a great job that, with the graphs that you sent, that.
for sure.
It's good information to have.
Absolutely, absolutely. We just got a bunch of data for what Dave is speaking of. Comprehensive plan just got all of our geographic and demographic data. It's kind of still in beta form, right, Michelle? It's that data hasn't actually.
Cultural, environmental.
The ag department. Yep.
They do data collection for towns. You have to request it. The last time Lyman was done was 2010.
Yep.
So our data is set to be fully done end of April. We have 85% of it right now. So
Mhm.
we're able to delve in and grab some stuff.
Mhm.
But people should really check it out. It's actually quite
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, it really is for sure, for sure. So once we start, comprehensive plan we're moving forward. So, that should help ordinance review committee have an idea at least where we're headed after comprehensive plan does their work. And then I am going to ask if anybody has any public comment or if anybody has Dawn has something to add. Go ahead.
Just to make sure I'm clear, on these signature sheets, we should individually just go turn those in now?
Correct.
So if you're satisfied with the number of people we have, presumably registered voters who have signed.
Correct.
Just to get them in, and then they will go do the verification and let us know if there's any issue. with
Yes,
the
they
total
will.
number.
Yep, Lindsay will let us know, I'm sure.
Okay, thank
Yep, yep. So if everybody can do that at your convenience, that would be great.
We'll do that in the
As soon
morning
as
for you.
I don't know when the next select board meeting is. Do you happen to know, Michelle? Is it when? The 6th? So they'll probably get it by then, I would say. I'm sure they can verify the signatures in that time. So let's look when our next meeting is going to be, which today is the 18th, so it's going to be the 2nd. May 2nd will be ours. And that's it. Does anybody else have anything to add? Michelle?
The stuff I talked about for the agricultural is available to anyone that wants to see it when it's published.
Yes. We should post that link out there too.
I will,
Yes,
soon
for
as it's
sure.
complete and review it.
Because you're awesome.
Where would you find
Yes.
that link?
It's the Maine Agricultural.
Department of Ag.
Department of Agriculture.
But you said you should post it. Where would you post that?
Michelle will post it, and as soon as I,
Okay.
yeah, as soon as I see her post it, I'll actually post it in Ordinance Review Committee Google group
Right
as
now,
well.
if you go to look at- we can see it because you allowed us,
Yeah.
but the official isn't clickable yet.
What is it?
The demographic data for the comprehensive plan that tells us, all of our demographics, our age groups, our population, so on and so forth.
Over that, just
So.
water tables, there's all kinds of,
Oh, yeah, very interesting for sure.
it'll take a lot to get through.
Yeah, and the other one that you sent out was great too,
It's from there. I
oh,
pulled it
boy,
from there.
it's great. So yeah, I'm looking for a motion.
Lyman an aging community?
Definitely,
We're a frozen-
definitely.
You'll put a pine.
Yep.
Judging the number of children in Lyman Elementary though, I can't see, I mean, it's at full capacity is what I would say, so it may not be growing, but
But
we
it's
are.
been at full capacity.
Right.
Right, but I'm just saying, it's not like, we're looking at closing our school.
What's the
Right.
overall population now?
4625, I think it was. 4625, yeah. Yep.
It's only decreased by 91 people in a
Yeah.
very long period of time, which is.
Yeah, property taxes have certainly gone up.
You're welcome, I can
Well,
watch
just
it.
that you have less people sharing the burden.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'll entertain a
So
motion.
91 people over what period of time?
Right.
Michelle?
That's, you remember, but I feel like, though, like, oh my gosh.
I have one motion to adjourn.
With
Matt,
Matt.
seconded by Steve, all in favor? Aye,
I was with Chris.
we're good. Thank you, everyone.
Peggy, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
So there's not a lot of people rushing to live in Lyman.
Oh, yes, there
I'm a
is.
little outdated.
It's
so I've
the-
been for
unfortunately,
3 years now.
The cost of living has made it hard in the last several years, but it's also Kennebunk, Wells, all those places along the coast are unaffordable to families like mine, for example. So they're looking towards Waterboro, Alfred.
Now, why you off it? Because you have kids? That's
Because
just-
for kids, because we're in our early 40s, we didn't have the income to buy land 30 years ago when it was really cheap. So not only is my generation paying off student loans, we're dealing with rapid inflation. We're the group that started our careers right at the Great Recession. There's a lot of, and most of us put off having kids late. We didn't have kids, most of us didn't have kids in 20.
You have my Zoom back, Matt.
I got it. I can do something.
So that's part of the reason I think we need to have more zoning, more, but less land for acreage to build. 5 acres. Pretty small.
You know, the thing that I did see something once.
Yeah,
yeah.
It is a
New
long
York
time.
Times, what projected growth from 2010 to 2020 was supposed to be, say, 50,000.
They don't know. I don't know what's out there, even over there.
I don't know either.
I don't think anybody knows.
We really get to have-
Yeah, exactly. We ain't got no business there.
No, that's just a,
What we're getting for information.
just makes people targets, unfortunately, which is not.
Now, Michelle, I've never met you. My name is Steve.
And what our mission is there.
Yeah,
You're
what is that?
fellow Senate.
Yes.
So you're a fellow Italian.
Yeah, I'm.
My husband is, yeah.
All right, so
Yeah,
I'm on
that's Michelle,
Facebook,
actually.
but
Yeah.
do you, are you the admin for, is it Lyman Maine they have?
All right.
I'll tell you,
Jesus.
I think everybody was astounded with Dave's explanation on why he wouldn't get a signature. I'm just.
I was not astounded. I knew he wasn't gonna get
Go
That
ahead.
doesn't seem right, though.
Well, we got enough signatures anyway.
Doesn't matter, Don. We're a committee and the
Commissioner,
purpose
thank you,
is
I know.
to get it in front of the people.
I agree.
I had a
Actually,
tripod, but it doesn't work.
I gotta admit, I was not in favor of the higher number
The thing is,
of
too,
people, but it does require, when you talk to people, they want a quick explanation, and I gave them,
what's that?
I started giving them a sheet, I made up some sheets, there's that cover sheet that had the summary to give to each person, and,
Well, whether you agree with it or not. but
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with all
Everybody that I had
Wording.
signed
so they
had
wanna
asked
know.
me, what is this? And I told them.
Yeah.
And I said, as far as the owner occupied thing, I said that was something that I thought should be eliminated because at some point, I may not want to be here, but I want to have one of my kids or someone in the house. I want to be able to, I may need the rent.
But there may be people, but I explained to people, when I said that, it has been removed, and I said that was somewhat controversial. It was discussed, but the committee voted to do it, so.
But
Doesn't mean you gotta vote for it, but-
What's change?
Well, that's a
Well, like I
problem.
said, when you
That's
see
a
this
problem.
stuff, and, like, they have a building better budgets thing that's also in the agricultural thing.
Oh, yeah?
Yours got kicked back saying your mailbox is full.
What?
Yeah, I
Wait.
sent you some really good stuff.
Did
But
it
showed how
bounce?
to- It showed, yeah, it showed how to reduce our tax bracket with growth by 30%.
Yeah.
And it's astounding data, people will just get their heads above their asses.
Yep.
And reach it. They have proven models. It's ridiculous that we're not, I sent you two things and I said,
Did you
mail
send
and
it to-
deliverable, it got kicked back.
Where did you send it to? Fairpoint?
Yeah, it said that it's full or something.
Yeah, it said your
Oh.
mailbox is full. Do you want me to send it to your other one?
Well, I gotta
We'll
Google
get rid of
one.
Fairpoint.
Oh, no, God, I mean, I would love to, but, you got everyone's got your email address. There's such a. But I guess I gotta go just
Well,
eliminate a whole bunch of stuff.
I
know, because I was showing, yeah, I sent this, and this is what I
The
got,
only
mail
thing to
delivery.
look for is that.
No kidding. I'm gonna call them up and ask them what I can do.
So, yeah, because I
And
sent
then-
you
and
guys
I want
like
you to
3
know that I was
documents.
fully
Oh, just
prepared.
Like really good
I was
documents.
Oh,
I
okay.
delved into the agriculture stuff a little
When
bit.
was this? Just recently?
April 17th.
Oh, geez.
So.
Well, that's what-
And I got the
What
kickback
we have to
yesterday.
rely on
Okay, well,
is
let me,
that his term is up in June.
Go ahead, forward everything to your other one.
And that's a really
Do
good
you have
thing
that?
for me to bring up to the town
Okay.
manager.
You can send it to the Google Docs. I've got one on Google somewhere. I
So
think it's
make sure you tell the select
DM
board that you did
159
not
or
get
something
any
like that.
signatures.
I'm in an awkward position because of the relationship, the neighbor thing, and the fact that.
Well,
everybody lives-
I've got to call. I've got to talk to.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, I don't have you.
It's
Okay.
just.
I'm not in love
Let
with
me-
them, so
let me,
I don't
take
have
that.
to do that.
Okay.
Look at SharePoint.
I feel bad.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, I just have my fair point for you.
I feel bad for
I hate you.
I do too.
But I've got, that's what, everything is,
It's just.
all my kids, friends and stuff, they all have that address, and I
The
can change
realtor
it, but
that's
So
handling
what you do is you change,
property
you
on
set
one
it forwarding,
farm, is
so
she,
all your fair point stuff forwards
a
to your
colleague of
Gmail for a
yours
while.
at
Until you get infiltrated.
Oh,
That's what I.
Heidi Buddha, I think it is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
or-
she's
I
interested
yes,
in
I had her
being
over for
agent.
years,
Yeah,
and then
we're
it's like,
all
okay,
kind of
so it took about a month.
So.
So
Oh,
I just said,
Have
hey
you,
guys, I'm not
have
gonna
you
use
looked
this.
at the listing?
For me to forward from my
Yes.
fair
I mean, I
point, go
think
to your
it's shot
Gmail,
himself.
eventually you'll see people emailing your Gmail.
I mean, think about it, if someone was willing to
Well-
pay,
So
say,
you just
5 or
have to
6,
download what you
Yeah.
need,
If
get whatever you need
a
out of
listing is
there,
over
what you
9,
can.
you're not
I
gonna make
mean,
an offer.
I got.
Or
By
forward
the
it to
time
yourself,
he gets
too.
in, he's already
I
dropped
got
it.
through them too, and it's very.
He's already
very
dropped
slow,
it.
and
If it keeps
you know,
dropping, aren't you gonna
I
just
keep on the
save
line.
yourself?
I know,
Is it not passing inspection? Why are they?
It's got, well, if it goes under contract and falls through, then you're saying to yourself,
Okay,
something's wrong with it.
but if you look at the pictures, it's not finished.
All right, so yeah.
And he told me, he says, well, I don't intend on, he says, I'll just give him $5,000 or $10,000 off.
Fascinating data, and that
And
was
it's
from
like,
agricultural.
okay.
I became a little bit familiar with.
I mean, it just, I don't know, obviously, I'm not a real estate person, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
Jeff is need someone to interpret it. I mean, it would take you weeks to find data in there.
I mean, no one buys property today without a comprehensive inspection, right?
Right.
I mean, that may be.
That's, well, some people did during COVID, they were hurting so bad
Really?
to get into a
So are we
home.
gonna?
I never recommended it. I never.
I don't know, because I mean, they said, DJ is even saying that we're gonna have to, it has to match, or you're starting to look.
Well, I think we should.
Well, because there's people living in the basements, there's people
You mean
that,
that are unaccounted for?
correct.
People are interested
Really?
and motivated. but
So there's quite a bit of that.
experience, or they don't really know from the time.
Right.
And
The resource.
think about it,
But I think giving.
the zoning doesn't change, it doesn't allow for that.
Okay.
It keeps driving the price up. So if your zoning is, if you have really strict zoning, that limits the supply of housing and in return drives the price up.
Hey, I don't know, but from just a few people I've talked about it, I think a zoning change as far as lot size and stuff would actually pass.
you know?
You
So
know,
they
this-
don't have anything to gain by telling us
I
what.
I hope that it does, but I don't know
But
that it
still, you know?
It's gonna be interesting.
Well, our town is, we're